Hello and welcome. In this particular video, I am going to be going over an example and we're going to kind of walk through this step by step of what we need to do when we are creating a responsive website, adjusting our CSS, including adding media queries. This is a practice site. This should help prepare you for the lab this week because you're going to be applying the same principles that we see in this. So the first thing that you'll need to do is go to Learn at UW Stout and download the zipped file called rwd-practice. Within that file, you are going to find an images folder that contains one image called lagoon.jpg, an index file that's an HTML file, reset.css, and a styles.css. In each case, the HTML has been coded, the reset.css is complete and you will not need to touch that, but because it does reset all of the browser default styles and really makes for cleaner presentation, you won't be touching that. And then there's the styles.css. This is the only file in this exercise that we will actually be using and making changes to. So let's take a look and see what this index.html looks like with these style sheets applied to it. Here I am in my browser and looking at the site. So you can see that it's basically just a layout of a website. And it has some multiple columns, it has menus, it has a header. And mainly I just color coded these so that they'd be easier for you to see. This is not done for aesthetics. So what happens when I have this browser page and I'm going to start shrinking it? Okay, this is fine, it's fine. We're going to start getting smaller. All of a sudden it just starts disappearing and is not adjusting based on the size of our screen. And I have a scroll bar on the bottom instead if I need to see that. And there's nothing more annoying than actually having to scroll left to right just to see the content of our web page. So what we need to do is we need to fix this. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go in and open up that CSS file. So I'm going to go over to my Dreamweaver, and here is that CSS file open and completely untouched. What I want you to do is remember back to the first video where we had a formula which was target divided by context equals result. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is go through to make our flexible site. So that's the first part in making this responsive, is we need to make it flexible. I like to work it systematically. We're going to start with the fonts. And the standard font size that's used for responsive web design, I'm not entirely sure why, is 16 pixels. So 16 pixels is kind of the default, and everything that we do, that is our context, is 16 pixels. So we're going to take the desired or target and divide it by 16 in this case, and we're going to make use of comments in our CSS document so that we know what it was originally as we work our way through. So the first thing I'm going to see is I have a body style where I have specified that the font size is 16 pixels, and we want to change this into M's. So we need to get a calculator. So here's my trusty calculator, and 16 divided by 16 is 1. We're starting with an easy one. So this is 1 EM. But in order for us to remember this, we're going to make a comment where it says 16 divided by 16, so we know how we derived this 1M. This one's pretty straightforward. Then, like I say, I'm going to work through the font sizes. So here we have one that's 13 pixels. So we need our calculator again. And in this case, we do our target is 13 divided by the context, which in the font case is always going to be 16, equals 0.8125. So we're going to change this 13 to a 0.8125 EM. And again, so we remember what it was that we got, how we got to this number. We're going to make a comment, and it's going to be 13 divided by 16. So now we know how it is that we got to this. So we're just going to scroll down and keep doing this. So here's 28. Let's go get our calculator. 28 divided by 16. So it's our target divided by context is 1.75, which makes sense because 28 is almost 2 times as big as 16. So 1.75 M, and we're going to come over here and make our comment. So it was 28, make sure we get that typed right, divided by 16. And so this is comments, so we know that. So let's go down, we have an H2, it's 20. And I'm just going to do my comment first so I don't forget what it is. So it's 20 divided by 16. And I'm going to get my calculator again. We'll go 20 divided by 16. And it's 1.25, so I'll change this over. And I'm just going to keep scrolling down, looking for fonts. Font size, there's one that says 14. So I'm going to do again, I'm just going to make my comment. 14 divided by 16. Get my calculator. Oops, make sure we get the numbers right. 14 divided by 16. It's 875. So we'll change this. And we'll keep scrolling. Let's see. Nope, there's no text. No font sizes, no font sizes. Okay, keep going. All right, one more font size here at the bottom, and it is 10. So let's make our comment. 10 divided by 16. And let's get our calculator. Target divided by context. 625. 0.625 EM. Okay, so now we have all of our fonts. I hope I didn't miss any. We'll find out. I'm just going to scroll back through here real quick. The next thing I do is I go through and look at all of my widths. We're going to skip margin and padding at the moment. We're just going to look at width. And just as a note, we do not do height, because if you think about this, you can scroll indefinitely on any sort of device, whether it be a desktop, laptop, a tablet, or a smartphone. So we don't adjust heights. We're just concerned with widths. So this is, we're going to go scrolling through. We don't have any widths here. Okay, here's our first width. All right, this one is a little strange because this is the wrapper of our site. And we don't know the actual size of our browser window that somebody is going to be on. So according to Ethan Marcotte, this part is kind of arbitrary. Usually between 80 and 90% is going to be good because we want, in this case, we want this so we have some outer edges showing, because if we just go over to our web browser here real quick, you can see we have white on either side of this. So we know that it's going to be centered, and we need to give this a width. So let's go back to our editor, and I'm just going to change this to 80%. And I'm not doing any sort of division here. This is the one exception, but I'm just going to put what my original dimensions were so that I have a reference. So it was 960 pixels, but I'm going to call this 80%. This is the one exception when we do this. So I'm going to do 80%. And now I see I have a width, and it's 932 pixels. This is where paying attention to our context is really important. So this header, let's go look at our website. This is our header. It's this lighter blue section. It fills up the entire area. But if you look at the actual CSS code, we have some padding here because this isn't right up next to the edge. So we have to take what it was 960 minus the amount of padding on both the left and right hand side. And that's where we came up with the 932. So we have to do this as a percentage of 960, because 960 in this case is our context. So let's go do that. So 932 divided by 960. And here is our number. And we're going to use this entire thing because the further out we go, the more fine-tuned that percentage actually is. So the first thing I'm going to do is, because I want to remember what my number was, so I'm going to do 932 divided by 960. So that was my context in this particular case. And now I'm going to change this to my percentage. Now remember, we can't just do 0.97 because that would get us in a lot of trouble because you're only saying it's about 10% of the size of the screen. We need to multiply this by 100 because it was the percentage. So it's 97.08 and then a bunch of threes. So we said what? 97.08. Now let's count our threes. I like to do it as many as my calculator will show. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then don't forget your percentage sign. Okay, so that's the first one. Now let's go and find some more widths. Okay, this one is a width and it's our nav li. So our nav li we know means each of these blue boxes that form our navigation. So again, their context, before I bounce back, their context is going to be this width in relation to the whole width of the site. So again, we're going to be dividing by 960. So let's go see what our target is. It's 147. So let's go to our calculator, clear out what we had, go 147 divided by 960. In this case, and let's see, oops, and we got to multiply by 100, so we get our percentage. It's 15.3125. And again, I like to make my comment first. So we're 147 divided by 960. And what did I say it was? 15.3125. 15.3125%. So now we have those couple of things in place. Let's go find another width. Main is a width of 100%. It was already at a percent, so I'm going to leave it. Section. So what is section? In this case, section happens to be, let's go look at our site. Section happens to be this left-hand side where the image is. So we're going to go ahead and change the width of that section, which is at 635 pixels. So let's go ahead and make our comment. And it's again within the context of the whole page, so it's 635 divided by 960. Let's get our calculator and go 635 divided by 960 and multiply it by 100. So it's 0.1458 and a bunch of 3s. So it's about 2/3. So I'm going to go in and make my adjustment. So we know we have 66.1458, and let's count our 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's go over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and don't forget your percentage. So now that's our new section. And then the aside, let's go over to our browser again. Our aside is the purple welcome box. That's what's contained within it. So let's go adjust our aside. So if this was about 2/3, this should be about 1/3. But we're not going to guess. We're going to actually plug this in. So I'm going to go in and do my comment again right away. So it's 282 divided by 960. And then we're going to get our calculator. Again, 282 divided by 960 times 100. And so that's our percentage. And we have 29,375. Oops, my memory is not so good. 29,375. 29.375%. And the reason this isn't exact is notice our aside has some padding in it. And remember, our padding counts into the entire formula. So before it was 282 plus 14 plus 14. And then that is what actually equals that full 1/3 if we needed that. So now we have these elements in. Let's keep scrolling, looking for widths. Here's another one. Oh, and it's 282 because now we're looking at, this is our column left, center, and right. Let's go back here, which are these yellow boxes, and you can see they're 1/3. They're the same as our aside, but it's for each of them. So let's just go copy this. Here's our aside, our width for that. So I'm just going to copy this, including the comment. And I'm going to go down here, because why redo it if I don't have to, right? So let's keep going. And we have the footer, it's a width of 100. So we're good to go there. And that's the last of our widths. So now we have fonts, and now we have widths. So I'm going to click Save. And I'm going to go back and take a look at my browser. I'm going to refresh out here. So, okay, you saw it just popped a little bit bigger because it was a percentage, but overall you're going to see my layout here is pretty much the same. This stuff is all more or less flush to the right. We have some issues because we haven't adjusted our padding and our margins yet. But if we scroll, close this in, let's see, it's a little bit better. You can see it's moving some stuff because you'll see our headers getting smaller, our image and so this section and the aside are getting smaller, our headline boxes are getting smaller, but because we haven't adjusted the widths of our paddings and our margins yet, that part is what's causing this to go all askew. So let's go back and do those. Like I said, we are only concerned about left and right padding and margin. We are not concerned about the heights. So that's what we're going to go looking for, is anything that we have a left or right padding or margin. So this one's 0, so that doesn't matter. This is font size. This is a margin bottom. So we're going to leave that at 10. Our width, okay. Oh, there's our first padding. Now, if you remember our shortcut, because there's only 2 shown here, we have 14 pixels on the top and bottom and 14 pixels on the right or left. And this is for our header. this is the part that was making it so that the word responsive web design practice was not right up next to the edge. So this is in our header, so we need to take a look. 14, so we're looking at this right here, this little space. This is going to be 14 divided by 960, because remember that was our original width of this entire thing. So let's go do that calculation. And before we do that, I'm going to make my comment. And it's 14 divided by 960. Close up our comment and go find our calculator. Clear? So 14 divided by 960 times 100. So you can see it's only 1.4, it's about 1.5% is what this is. So we're going to go in and plug in that number. So it's 1.45858 and a bunch of threes. We're going to count our threes again. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 threes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 percentage. So that's our padding up within our header. Let's keep going, and notice we have a percentage and pixels. That's okay. Now we have margin here, but this is, again, we have two numbers. So the 6 pixels is our top and bottom. The 0 is our left and right. So we don't have to be concerned with this. Likewise, we have a padding left here, but it's 0. So we don't have to make any adjustments because 0 is 0. And let's keep going. Oh, here's a margin. And again, it just has 2, so the first one is our top and bottom, so that's 0. But we have a 5 pixels. So this is our nav LI. So let's go take a look at what that is. So that's our nav LI. So that's this space, this white space in between our navigation buttons. So let's go back. That means it's going to be out of the context of 960 again. So let's go back to this, and we're going to make our comment, and it's 5 divided by 960. So we know that this is also going to be a small number, and that's okay. Let's go get our calculator, and we'll do 5 divided by 960 times 100. Okay, see, this isn't even a percentage. This is a full percentage point. It's a fraction of. So 0.5208. Let's go change this. 0.5208, and then we have a bunch of threes. So let's count our threes again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so there's 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and our percentage. After this, we have padding, and again, top and bottom is 6, left and right is 0, so we don't care. We're going to move on. Margin left is 0, margin right is 0, so we keep moving. These are floats. All right, here's another one that's padding, and it's padding of 14 pixels, and this is, let's take a look. This is for our aside. Okay, so we're doing, this is 14 pixels. So let's see, 14 pixels. Let's go back. Okay, so we're looking at what it is it's the padding right here. So this is actually, should be 14 pixels out of 960, because this is the whole width. If we count this, it'd be 14 plus the remainder, plus 14, plus what this number is, plus what this number is. It gets us to 960. So let's go and make our division. And I think we already did a 14 by 960. So let's just scroll up. There we did. We had a 14 by 960 right there. So I'm just going to copy this last piece. Copy. Scroll back down to my aside. There we are. And it's just this second half. So I'm going to paste right there. So because this is still, the top and bottom still going to stay in pixels. this is all the same. So there's my aside. Okay, there's a margin bottom, but that's a bottom, so we don't care. And here's another padding, and it's also 14, and it's also going to be out of 960, the padding within our columns. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste over that as well. Let's see, column left is top and bottom is 12, and right and left is 0, so we don't care. Oh, here's a column center. It's got 15. And this one would be our left and right. So we need to figure this one out. And this is our margins. So let's make a little comment. It's 15. Oops, 15 divided by 960. So you're going to see it's really close to that 14, but it's not quite. So let's go find our calculator. So 15 divided by 960 equals that times 100 is 1.5625. 1.5625. So 1.5625%. So we have 12 on the top, 1.5625 right and left, and 0 on the bottom. Okay, keep going. So here's another one, top and bottom, right and left is 0. And right here, top and bottom is 6, right and left is 0 again. And we are at the bottom. So we're going to save. And I'm going to go out to my browser. And we are going to refresh this. And here we are. We know that this isn't exact, but it wasn't exact to begin with. We do have this little space here. Don't worry about that. But we can see that our image, which is in a section, so the width of this still lines up here. They're exactly the same widths. This is also the same width as this. And we have all of our margins in here and our paddings within our boxes. And now if we start to shrink, notice how everything shrinks in. Except now, this is what we talked about in the video prior to this one, is notice our menu starts to move because of the lack of media queries. And look at how narrow those little columns are and how weirdly disproportionate this is getting, right? Now we're down to about what would be a cell phone size, our smartphones. We get this little tiny image and our menu wraps around just a ridiculously narrow. Even as we go back out a little bit, it's still really narrow. So we're just going to keep going back out. But when we're at the width that it's more or less intended for, this is looking pretty good. So that's the first part of this video where we've actually made it flexible and adaptable. In the next video, to help you prepare for this lab, we're going to introduce the media queries.